Sony doesn't have enough original IP, says company leadership. Sony leadership reckons that the company doesn't have enough original IP, including its PlayStation division. The group is making a multi-billion-dollar investment into creating original content in a bid to widen its share of the entertainment industry, and in an interview with Financial Times, expressed its desire to foster new IP from the beginning. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. These are the statements of a top executive over at Sony. This is one of those things where, ladies and gentlemen, you really have to pretty much understand that it seems the leadership might be at odds as to what they consider original IP, or it seems the fans might be at odds of what they think original IP is. I've been seeing in all of these conversations games like Killzone and SOCOM come up. What does that mean, PlayStation fans? Apparently, these are games that have been requested for a long time. It seems players have been asking PlayStation what is going on with these IPs. I saw another article the other day. It was hugely negative towards Jim Ryan. I was like, dude, if I read this article on the Video Game Fight School channel, people are going to lose their minds and they're going to call me an Xbox fan. They already do, even though I don't care about Xbox or PlayStation at the end of the day, just enjoying what their competition is yielding on the PC side. I saw that article and I was like, whoa, okay, this guy could have toned it down a little bit. In some of the different things that this person said, they were writing about Jim Ryan and said, that Jim Ryan was not necessarily the kind that wanted to really foster IPs, that some IPs that were there that he could have basically fostered, he was basically somewhat very pedantic about. Another thing too was also backward compatibility. One thing a lot of these folk don't realize is backward compatibility is actually your key to being able to bring new versions of the IP. It's a way to kind of give your fans a taste of something that they may have somewhat forgotten, or maybe just to remind them that this particular IP is one that you want to show love right before you go ahead and drop on them a new Marvel vs. Capcom game. What? Oh my gosh. Where did that just come from? I just literally threw in an FGC shout out. My goodness. But it seemed like Sony did not necessarily want to do that. And so now these, the company having, all of these IPs that it sat on for years that fans have been basically shouting about, I think it's Podcast Now. Shout out to Podcast Now. He's been making tweets every single year and month about a possible Sly Cooper game. The people over there at Sucker Punch who can make some really good games have not been given any room to shine. Remember when their game was shelved behind The Last of Us Part 2 just because of reasons? They did not get the spotlight that they needed. The Last of Us Part 2 pooped itself all over the place, did not appeal to its fans. Well, a new IP that they could have basically built up by now, Ghost of Tsushima should be the next Assassin's Creed. We should be looking at Ghost of Tsushima 23 or something like that. But somehow, it seems PlayStation thinks that they lack original IP. Men, they're the ones that own their company. It's all about them. I've also seen Bloodborne. When new IP is certainly welcome, these comments are a little puzzling when it comes to PlayStation because the company has numerous game franchises. I think the people that are talking about this, ladies and gentlemen, are somewhat not reading the comment very well. This might be a translation challenge as well. I don't know. But from what I see from the English translation, it says whether it's for games, films, anime, we don't have that much IP that we fostered from the beginning. We're lacking the early phase of IP, and that's an issue for us. Basically, I think what he may be saying is we haven't necessarily boosted a lot of the classic IPs to be big brand names themselves. This is something that, believe it or not, Ubisoft has in the bag. Far Cry, there's like 20 games. Tom Clancy, there's like 60 games. Assassin's Creed, there's like 1 zillion games. I mean, Ubisoft actually has more original IPs that it makes a bunch of money from annually than all of its competitors when you actually factor things in. EA has a lot of external licensed IPs. Take-Two has licensed IPs more than everybody else. Now, yes, they net more money in terms of, how much they're bringing in from those other IPs. However, when you even compare, even with Activision, Ubisoft has more. And most of those games, Ubisoft is selling 10 million copies in just a cold run with those titles. But in the case of PlayStation, doesn't seem to be the case, that they can actually churn out games underneath these IPs fast enough to keep interest. I think that's the most important aspect of this whole conversation when it comes down to it, because that's where I think the meat of, the whole substance is. Because yes, they have IPs, but they're sitting in development cycles for 6-8 years. They're not necessarily coming out fast enough. But with the Ubisoft, cycle, you can get an Assassin's Creed game if you just turn around. Like, you can literally go to bed and wake up, and they'll have an Assassin's Creed game for you. PlayStation doesn't have that kind of a thing going for them. Even though Ubisoft is about to stab itself in the foot with a katana with the new Assassin's Creed, let's see how that turns out. Seeing how, they were so proud about what they made that they were basically, in a sense, ignoring fans. And now that Concord has sent a very, very heavy message, whoo-wee, we don't know what might happen in that situation. But I think the fans have always been onto something. Because telling PlayStation, or trying to signal to PlayStation that the fans could use another shooter that was not heavily dependent on Call of Duty was probably something that they should have taken, in my opinion, a lot of, how do you put it? They should have taken, or they should have paid attention to. Now, here's another challenge too that PlayStation faces. This is the fact that their own audience doesn't really buy games that much. Actually, they don't buy games, because for all the talk that they'll talk, they're not really big on purchasing, many games. And I can't blame anybody. I mean, in fact, one of their PlayStation content creators actually parodied something that I thought was funny. So I don't know who this is. I really do not know who this gentleman is, but I saw this on Astro Cyborg's Twitter. So Astro Cyborg, I'm going to blame you if anybody comes at me. So thank you so much for this. Appreciate you, bro.
I got 12 kids to feed, man. Come on, man. I got 13 kids to feed, man. I got 13 mouths to feed, man. So when it's time to buy the games, when it's time to support the devs and do that shit, motherfuckers disappear.
Hey, I think the guy has observed something that some of us have been saying. I mean, we would not probably put it in the same words. I apologize for the explicit words, but it's as raw as we could find it out there. It appears that these games are not being purchased, bro. What's the need for the box when the software is not going to be purchased at the end of the day? So PlayStation, we need you to go ahead and find where people are going to buy your content. I mean, you already know. We just need you to start bringing it much faster so that they can buy it at a very good pace. In my opinion, I strongly believe that this is going to actually, in a sense, lean towards your perspective. Also, you need to, in a sense, signal to your studios that mediocrity is not going to fly. You need to let these creatives that are running the ship know that they're not going to pull a Neil Druckmann every single time you give them the reins. It seems like people have lost their minds trying to deliver Concord to PlayStation fans, who are the most artistically attracted fan base ever. I mean, their character models in their single player games are some of the best you've ever seen. And the developers went ahead and thought that Concord was going to somehow appeal to them. This is not even a matter of some kind of political or social discourse. This is a matter of the artistic side. You fed your audience a staple diet of a specific artistic look, and then one day somebody submitted this artistic direction and somebody else thought that it was going to be cute to do it. Wow. Like I said, they stabbed themselves in the foot with this axe in this in this particular situation, and they are basically paying for it. And this is all on PlayStation's leadership. It's not that they're incapable, it's that they just, for some strange reason, thought they could get away with something so subpar. I mean, look at a game like Tom Clancy's The Division 1 and The Division 2. The quality in terms of a game like this appeals to PlayStation players. How do I know? The biggest player base for this game is PlayStation. I'm a PC player, but I got a Division account on PlayStation, where the clan that I run this game with is on PlayStation, because the artistically good-looking games are something that fans in that ecosystem like. Could they not have made a game like this? A game where you actually create your own character, however the world and the graphics and everything is representative of what you would see from a serious shooter. PlayStation fans, I don't think, are going to go in for some childish, representation of what a shooter should be. The demographics is changing and you need something unique. This is why I think First Descendant did okay, because it took that perspective. The Overwatch niche, the Apex Legend look and all that, the Fortnite Blitz, that's all gone. We need games, or at least I think for what PlayStation players are saying, are games like SOCOM, games like Killzone that actually resonate to a much more gritty landscape, like something that's a little bit more rugged and, visceral in its presentation. So until PlayStation learns this approach, I don't know, man. They might find themselves in a very interesting position at the end of the day. But hey, I'm here to observe. Let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching the video. Appreciate you guys' time and audience, and hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.